Hey, Jake with B&H, and I was just handed the newest 12.9-inch iPad Pro with the amazing M1 chip that boasts desktop computer level performance with very low power consumption, along with a brand new liquid retina display, new 12 megapixel front-facing camera with the center stage feature, Thunderbolt 3 connectivity, and much more, so let's dive in. But first, ta-da! Oh. There it is. The iPad Pro 12.9-inch with the M1 chip. Let's go. The form factor has changed slightly, weighing 684 grams up from 604 and measuring 6.4 millimeters thick up from 5.9. There's also a new, larger battery that is just over 40 watts, up from the original 36 watts on the 2020 version, providing the user with 9 to 10 hours of usage on a full charge, which is pretty much the full day without having to charge it. Okay, let's briefly go over Apple Silicon. Late last year, Apple announced a truly profound chip upgrade called the M1, which completely changed their hardware capabilities going forward, because now they had end-to-end control over their internal components. This means they could then design these parts to work more efficiently with their Mac OS, integrated applications, and third-party app developers. Although the Mac was the first to benefit from this new hardware implementation, the new iPad Pro 12.9-inch was the next in line, and I must admit, the potential for this mobile device with an M1 chip makes me giddy with anticipation. But what is in the M1 chip that makes it so fast and efficient? Well, it begins with the 8-core CPU, which contains within it 2 types of cores. 4 high-performance cores are designed to run a single task or thread as efficiently as possible, while maximizing performance. To handle lighter workloads more efficiently, the M1 chip also has the 4 high-efficiency cores that use 1/10 of the power but still deliver fast performance. Apple has stated that the M1 is the highest performance CPU they have ever created, and it delivers this performance at the lowest possible power consumption. The 8-core GPU also offers incredible performance at low power consumption, providing the fastest integrated graphics in the world for personal computers, capable of executing nearly 25,000 threads at a time. The M1 also uses the unified memory architecture that allows the CPU and GPU to share information very quickly rather than copying the info first and then sharing it, which means low latency and higher bandwidth. It also uses the well-known mobile ARM instruction set rather than the typical desktop x86 instruction set, which generates less heat and makes better use of what is known as out-of-order execution of tasks. What this means is you get higher performance and speed without the power-hungry consumption, and therefore the user can work faster and longer on a large device that just so happens to be mobile, i.e. the iPad Pro. And that's why this new iPad Pro with the M1 chip is such an appealing option for content creators. Compared to the previous generation of iPad Pro, the M1 chip delivers 50% faster CPU performance and gives a 40% boost to graphics, and it was noticeable right away. And when we think of the potential, the M1 chip opens the door for app developers to make certain apps for the iPad Pro that are just as powerful as their desktop counterparts, which means we could see some pro-level editing apps in the future thanks to this hardware advancement. Now, you do have some control over your RAM capacity depending on the storage option that you choose. If you go with the 256 gig or the 512 gig storage, it will ship with 8 gigs of RAM. If you choose the 1 terabyte or the 2 terabyte storage, the iPad Pro will ship with 16 gigs of RAM, which I would argue is the better option for content creators because you're getting double the benefit. By purchasing more storage, you double your memory. And having 2 terabytes of storage is crucial for media management because don't forget, you still cannot edit video off of an external drive over an iPad Pro. Therefore, you will have to transfer your video files from an external hard drive onto your iPad Pro Files app to start editing with them. According to Apple, the 2 terabyte storage version can hold up to 60,000 raw photos or up to 220 hours of 4K HDR video, which is more than enough for any type of mobile solution. Side note, if you use LumaFusion's editing app, you can review and play back clips in the app from the hard drive, but as soon as you start editing with them, it will have to transfer the apps from the hard drive onto your iPad storage. This new iPad Pro is more than just a fast and power-efficient mobile device. It is also a pro-level HDR monitor thanks to the 12.9-inch liquid Retina XDR display with extreme dynamic range. The new iPad Pro's display features the same XDR technology found on Apple's Pro Display XDR. But in order to achieve a supreme level of brightness and contrast in such an ultra-thin design, Apple had to rethink how it would display the light, and therefore created their own mini LEDs. The mini LEDs are 120 times smaller in volume than the previous design. And because they are so small, they needed 10,000 mini LEDs, which then had to be grouped into 2,500 local dimming zones that can adjust their brightness on the fly depending on the content that is being displayed. The light is then shaped by 3 thin layers of optical films and diffusers. I know you can't see it from here, but take my word for it, it looks great. So thanks to this breakthrough, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro delivers true-to-life detail with a whopping 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio with 1,000 nit full-screen brightness and 1,600 nits of peak brightness. So even the most detailed HDR content with the finest specular highlights are more true-to-life than ever. So with a display like this, content creators can preview their HDR content before uploading it to their YouTube channel or any other publishing platform. Plus, it features advanced display technologies like P3 wide color, True Tone, and ProMotion support for 120 Hz refresh rate. The rear camera still has the same 12 megapixel wide and 10 megapixel ultra wide options. It can also still shoot 4K video up to 60 frames per second and features 5 built-in studio quality mics. So this is still a great option for capturing quality 4K video content. Okay, so Dave is now shooting me with the iPad Pro with the M1 chip using the rear-facing camera. So we're shooting in 4K at 60 frames per second using the built-in internal microphone. So this is what it sounds like and what it looks like. Let me know in the comments below. However, the new front camera is now also an ultra-wide 12 megapixel camera with a 1080p resolution and 120-degree field of view that supports a new feature called Center Stage, which will track more than one person as they move around their space. So it feels like a cameraman is panning, tilting, and/or zooming around to keep you in the middle of the frame. However, in actuality, it's just a digital zoom. The enormity of the 4K sensor allows for a digital crop of the 1080p that can move around the sensor, giving the impression of a pan and tilt, but it's still a very convenient feature for your next video call or live stream. To unlock augmented reality experiences, the front camera still features the LiDAR scanner, which is great for pre-visualization of visual effects or architects who want to see their designs live on site at full scale, or to throw a dance party using AR space to create a magical dance floor in your living room. They have added 5G cellular network connectivity option, including mmWave, to this new iPad Pro, which means you can be creative on the go and share your content quickly with friends or colleagues from pretty much anywhere. Although 5G speeds will vary depending on your carrier and region. Thanks to this new wireless functionality, you could live stream to your followers from almost anywhere, and you never have to miss that video meeting again. Just don't tell your boss. The iPad Pro M1 features USB-C Thunderbolt 3 connectivity, providing users with 40 gigabits a second transfer speeds, making it the fastest port ever on an iPad. This opens up a world of possibilities to connect full-speed Thunderbolt hard drives and docks, or drive Apple's Pro Display XDR at full 6K resolution. You can purchase some of Apple's Pro accessories to get even more out of your iPad Pro experience. The Apple Pencil turns the iPad into a virtual drawing canvas by giving you tactile control, while the Magic Keyboard uses magnets to lift up and snap your iPad into place, creating an incredibly simple and elegant floating aesthetic that elicits a familiar MacBook Pro operating experience. Not to mention the responsiveness of the keyboard and the built-in trackpad that provides new ways to work with iPadOS. Please note, this new 12.9-inch iPad Pro model is compatible with the previous generation Magic Keyboard. However, the extra thickness means it may not be the perfect fit when it's closed. As an iMac and Mac Pro desktop user for the last 5 years, I admit iPads never really crossed my radar. They always kind of just looked like a big iPhone that were only capable of, less demanding workflows. But after today's testing, I'm a believer. This will not replace a maxed out Mac Pro tower, but that's not what it is intended to do. The remarkable M1 chipset paired with the innovative 10,000 mini LEDs along with the Thunderbolt 3 connectivity make this new 12.9-inch iPad Pro an incredibly powerful device that is capable of HDR monitoring and editing, and it only weighs 1.5 pounds. I mean, it cannot be overstated. This is a phenomenal tool for content creators who require speed, power, and efficiency, but cannot sacrifice their mobility. What do you think? Will this new iPad Pro with the M1 chip replace your laptop? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Jake with B&H. Just keep rolling.